Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Aadi Achint. As you all can see, I have with me this Saturday as a regular feature now, Major General Rajiv Narayanan. Sir, thank you so much, firstly, for coming in. Uh, Grateful for the effort that you put in researching today's game. It is an important session, sir. Before we break on, I'd just like to say thank you and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Adi. It's always pleasure to be on your platform and throw out new ideas. I get a lot of new twists and turns in the questions that come out.
I'm grateful to the audience for that, sir. Sir,
Yes.
today it's an important subject we are talking about where the American seems to be sleeping on the switch as the policeman of the world, if I may,
Yeah.
or
See,
too pre-obsessed.
no, the issue with the Americans is that, uh, like I had mentioned much earlier in one of my talks on your show, Michael Pillsbury, who had been a pro Chinese man and has changed into a rabid anti Chinese, talks of 100-year war. And that the Chinese are running a marathon while the Americans are trying to run a sprint.
Race.
Then there was this Chinese dissident who works with the US military in their war college, David Lai, who talked about the Weiqi game. And now I will add into that the Americans have no clue of how to use economics to gain influence. They only know how to enforce a dollar trade to maintain their dollar.
It's a
And
very
if it
strong
doesn't
statement, sir.
happen, they attack.
It's a very strong statement, sir.
Yeah, how do you? अब अभी तक they we talk a lot of Marshall Plan, but
Yeah.
when you look at the overall thing, Marshall Plan, yes, helped kickstart a devastated industry of the continental Europe to restart. But thereafter the bulk of the money and all the effort were put by the West. And since they were in league with the Americans to counter the Soviet Union, he gave them a protected market. It was not that the Americans would like to penetrate that market, it was a protected market. From there, what happened? They shifted to they've shifted out their industry to Chinese. अपना तो कुछ है नहीं उनका, except for some cars they make and other things. बाकी क्या है? Software है. Software is outsourced to India. Bulk of the softwares which they show out there in bits and pieces, yes, they stitch it together there, but the various bits and pieces of the software is outsourced to India. Now, when where have they built infrastructure? Physically gone and built infrastructure? Nowhere, right? Where have they built railway lines? Different countries. Where have they built roads? कहीं नहीं किया है. Have they built assisted anybody to build ports? No. This is geoeconomics. That okay, I will help you do this. I will help you set up industry. उन्होंने किसको हेल्प किया है to set up industry outside the Western Europe? Nowhere. So slowly over a period of time, they have lost this hold of geoeconomics. The only hold they have is the dollar trade. They don't have. The Chinese are following geoeconomic route. I will, in the course of my talk, I will tell you what the चाइना क्या कर रहा है और यूएस उसके बदले में क्या कर रहा है. कुछ दैट्स व्हाई ही इज लूजिंग ना. वो मैराथन लड़ रहा है विद जियो इकोनॉमिक्स. आप स्प्रिंट करना चाहते हो, कैसे होगा?
I guess I could,
स्प्रिंट
I could,
करोगे
after what you,
तो आप स्प्रिंट करोगे तो नियर टू मीडियम टर्म उसके बाद तो यू आर टायर्ड यार.
हाँ,
वो तो मैराथन भाग रहा है, तो लॉन्ग टर्म और उसके आगे का देख रहा है वो। तो भाग रहा है। हाँ, बीच में अभी एक थोड़ा गलती हुआ है, शी जिनपिंग ने ज्यादा जल्दी कर दिया है, बट ओवरऑल स्ट्रेटजी इज लॉन्ग टर्म। तो आप कैसे काउंटर करोगे? So at least they have become sensible now. Biden has made a statement this week that we won't talk of countering China, we will offer an alternate model. So this to me and a lot of speakers in India have been talking for 6 साल 7 साल से हम बोल रहे हैं ये कि तुम काउंटर नहीं कर सकते, पैसे हैं नहीं तुम्हारे जेब में. You can give an alternate model for them to take a call that you will not get into a debt crisis. वो अब जागे हैं. लेट्स सी आगे क्या होता है. कैन विल दे वॉक द टॉक? So at the today I would like to focus on the Indo-Pacific. That is where actually the future of the world lies. That is the place for the future of the world. Oh, Americans and West जो बोलना है बोलते रहो. This is where it lies. And this is where I feel the Americans are still struggling to patch together something. So, can we have this slide?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Yeah.
My God,
Now,
what you said brought about something really realistic in my head, if I may, sir.
yeah,
You said that the game is shifting, of course, and the Chinese, on their part, have been running a marathon. How I interpret it is the factor that the US today is playing kind of a catch up.
yeah, but what they fail to realize is they are not the US of the last century, 50s,
60s,
60s,
70s,
70s.
yeah.
They are the US of today and they don't have deep pockets. They have spent too much of money in their global war on terror and now towards Ukraine, and they don't have money. Plain and simple. You are taking out the taxpayers' money and giving it to your rich military industrial complex in the Ukraine war. तो नॉर्मल आपके कंट्री के रनिंग के लिए आपको क्या मिल रहा है?
True.
When we say that 6 billion has been 6 billion whatever they have spent for the Ukraine war, what spent? It is the taxpayers' money, which the taxpayer needs so that at the local level he has his gas at a proper price, he gets food and everything, and inflation doesn't go up. But you have taken that money out from the circulation and you've given it to the ministry industrial complex to make the weapons and whatever spares and other things that are needed for Ukraine to send it there. So who's taking away the cream? It is the elite of the military industrial complex.
True.
So you're seeing at a lower scale a similar thing happening in the US and the West, as in a much greater scale is happening in Pakistan.
Pakistan.
The elite is having that money. आम आदमी के पास है नहीं. No, you look at the elite of UK. They have everything. You look at the आम आदमी. My niece who's there says that in the when you go to buy your vegetables, there is rationing. You can buy only 5 tomatoes or 6 tomatoes. I can't take a 7th tomato. It's rationed. कोई BBC बोलता है इसके बारे में? There are a lot of stocks है नहीं available because they come from अपना Europe. वहाँ पे है नहीं, and a lot of it used to come, which they are hiding today, which is coming out slowly, used to come from Russia. The common man's food was turnip. Turnips used to come from Russia.
Russia.
अब है
Right,
नहीं
Russia
turnip
and
उसके पास. So you see, the elite has the money. आम आदमी भुगत रहा है. वो अभी भी कह रहे हैं कि नहीं हम उसको ये देंगे, उसको वो देंगे. मतलब टैक्स पेयर का मनी निकाल के आप एलिट को दे रहे हो to fatten their purses, and on paper you are saying I am supporting Ukraine, but on ground physically क्या हो रहा है? So When you have this problem, you need partnership, not alliances. The earlier the US State Department and White House realized this, that alliances today are passe. Alliance means there is one leading partner, leading man who dictates things. It's out. It's partnership, and you will have to compromise on a lot of interests
Absolutely.
for the larger good of a region. Now you have to take a call. Now, extended Indo Pacific, which I have said, we have to be very clear. As far as the US is concerned, Indo Pacific runs from Hawaii up to the west coast of India.
West Coast.
Yeah, that is the Indo Pacom ka boundary. And south of Gujarat. Because if you draw the line from north of Gujarat across the Arabian Sea, north of it is CENTCOM ka area. And west of India, entire area is Africa Com ka area. Now that's a fundamental error. India looks at Indo-Pacific starting from the east coast of Africa till the Atlantic coast of the Americas, that is North and South Americas, and also includes the continental portion where you have landlocked countries who are dependent on these seas for their trade, like in South Asia, Nepal, Bhutan. The US is looking only at the maritime portion. Other countries have taken generally to accept it as from West Asia to the Western Pacific to the eastern coast of Africa, which is where it stands today. Western Pacific, Southern Pacific, and Southern Pacific भी नहीं रखा था. Western Pacific and Indonesia के फिर west आ गए थे to the east coast of Africa. Why? Because Australia and New Zealand controlled the Southern Pacific islands. It was a typical free colonization, you can say. So China today is expanding its reach, and I will indicate how. Can we show the slide? Next slide. Yeah. Now, initially, China was also very keen on Western Pacific, South Pacific, Western Pacific, and of course the Indian Ocean. Because in a Weichi game, you have to defend your, protect your borders. So ये Weichi board के ऊपर मैंने डाला हुआ है. So you defend your borders towards the west, and that is the eastern seaboard, towards the east, and the Indian Ocean, and of course towards the north, which essentially comes to Central Asia. It is facing challenges in the Western Pacific. It is facing military challenges. It's not facing a geo-economic challenge. US has made for Philippines में एक्स्ट्रा बेसिस बना रहा है मिलिट्री का. कोई जियो इकोनॉमिक नहीं आया है अंदर अभी तक वहां पे. And Indian Ocean में he is finding India a challenge, because India is coming in not just militarily, it is coming in with geo-economics, not to the scale of China, but छोटा scale, but providing an alternative to the countries in this region. Like in our budget this time we have given allocated funds for the countries in the region कि आपको मदद के लिए हम ये देंगे. Okay. And of course China has its internal challenges. So what does he do? In the game of Weichi, you're supposed to protect yourself further, you throw challenges out so that the attention of that person starts getting diverted towards that the other challenges also. Pieces तो उतने ही हैं. मूव में आपने एक ही पीस डालना है, तो अभी आपने डिसाइड करना है कि उस चैलेंज को काउंटर करने के लिए पहले करूं या यहाँ पे जहां पे मैं बिल्डअप कर रहा हूं उसको काउंटर करूं. Move one at a time you have to do in Weichi. Though of course in geopolitics and geoeconomics you can do multiple moves, but you have to balance your moves now to the new challenges. And where are the new challenges? Next. He's come into Latin America and the Caribbean. He's come into South Pacific, and he's coming into West Asia. अफ्रीका में गया है, थोड़ा headwinds है वहां पे, but he
Hmm.
is now finding a vacuum in West Asia because the US has gone in. So he has started stepping in a big way. Next. So let us start one by one.
So, if I may, so just on in this one,
Yeah.
Africa में थोड़ा सा obviously some headwind is there and stuff like that. Uh, how is he dividing his attention in these three zones, sir?
Geoeconomics.
No, no. Like the Americans have CENTCOM, WestCom, YECOM, WOCOM.
ना ना ना,
How is the
वो तो
Chinese?
अमेरिका का सेंटकॉम पैकॉम वो सब तो लड़ने के लिए है ना.
Hmm.
तो when I'm doing geoeconomics, I don't need military commands for it ना. Where does military command come in geoeconomics?
नहीं, but he talks about expanding footprints. How does he control these things from base in China, or does he have? Will he have to create local waypoints in these in these regions?
Now it is a step by step. That's why I said a marathon है. आपको वहां पे इल्ली करने के लिए काम कर रहा है. He set up his अपना base stations, ground stations for his Beidou satellite. He's investing slowly in a lot of ports, and there are a number of ports in the
Yeah.
Pacific Ocean that he started investing in out there. Then one of the ports, a couple of ports he'll club together, and at a much later date in the long term, he will have his overseas strategic strong points. नेवल बेसिस बनने लगेंगे. अभी सोलोमन आइलैंड्स, jumping the gun, South Asia, South Pacific, Solomon Island. He has they claim that it is just a logistic arrangement for the base to come there. Yeah, Solomon Island. What does Solomon Island have to give to a naval ship? Yeah, you don't have any navy. So what is the victualling you're going to give? It's obvious it is going to be a naval base. Now to help repair or provide victuals to that ship out there, China will have its people sitting there. So how different is it
That's
from
what
a
I'm
naval
asking.
base? How different is it from a naval base?
That's what I'm asking.
Right? But
He'll have to do a more disguised sort of a basing
no,
to,
no. But when you look at what he's doing in Latin America, takes you back to, it's a direct challenge to the US Monroe Doctrine.
yeah, absolutely.
Monroe Doctrine was to the Europeans that this is to their west. So they had said that Western Hemisphere is my zone. You will not step in here. And in that Western Hemisphere, Pacific Ocean is also part of that. Pacific Ocean is supposed to be the US backyard. Okay, so
Backyard.
next step when we go, we will look at what he's doing in Latin America.
समझ गया सर.
Yeah, next. Now you look at his investments. 7 countries are participating in his BRI for whatever it is. Almost 94 billion is energy. Infrastructure is also there. Mining is also there. His main focus has been on mining. I'll come to it.
Mining.
I'll show it in the next slide. Now you have funded projects worth 11.3 billion. Can US compete and tell me anything that project they have invested anywhere in their sphere of interest other than wanting to take away oil and other things and calling them banana republics?
NGOs. Sir.
Nothing. Look at the change in 20 years. 2001, exports was only 1.6. By 2020, it has risen to 26% and it is growing. Now let us see. Next slide. क्या कर रहा है अभी? Just look at the spread.
Yikes.
And I draw your attention to San Juan, satellite ranging, laser ranging. The latest report that has emanated from the US is they were getting laser strikes on their bases in Hawaii. Initially, they thought it was their American satellites. They have now realized that whenever the Chinese satellite goes over Hawaii, लेजर रेंजिंग होता है उनके ऊपर. और कहां से हो रहा है? सैन युआन में बैठ के हो रहा है. दे फायर लेजर फ्रॉम द सैटेलाइट्स, अ डायरेक्ट थ्रेट टू देम कि तुम लड़ने आओगे, ऊपर से मैं मारूंगा तुमको, सैटेलाइट से. अब how much he has got, what kind of weapons he has got, that is open to debate and question.
Wait.
But the very fact that he is accurately lasing and hitting the naval bases and the Indo-Pacom bases in Hawaii itself is a cause for concern. वो अब जाग रहे हैं. पिछले साल तक तो till recently they were thinking that it is the Americans who are doing some laser testing. Little realizing that why is he doing a laser testing on your own base? And look at the amount of satellite ground stations and link it in my discussion which I had on your platform on the Chinese balloon. So the mapping is complete. Yeah, iska. Look at the ports, the number of ports that you see, which is on the Pacific coast. Mexico में देखो, घुसा हुआ है right in your doorstep.
This is what I don't understand, sir. I mean, I just don't understand this. Yeah, how did were they sleeping?
Yeah, of course. पैसे बनाने में थे, लगे हुए थे. पैसे बनाने में लगे हुए थे. There are reports that the entire mafia in Mexico is controlled by the Chinese.
That is true, sir. MS11 is there.
तो आप लगा लो. The kind of control, and this is a direct challenge to your Monroe Doctrine, and you don't even know how to do, क्योंकि the only response you have is to fight. The Chinese is not fighting. Now, when you look at the Latin American countries, why will he not accept the Chinese? अब चलो वो चूस रहा है, जो कर रहा है, कुछ इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बन तो रहा है.
तो वैसे भी वहां पर हालत ही खराब है.
या थोड़ा बहुत बन के ले गया, ठीक है. उनको क्या फर्क पड़ता है? एलीट को पैसे मिल रहे हैं.
Yeah.
He's coming with his bags of money.
I mean, countries like Chile and countries like Argentina and all that, as it is, have got a lot of issues.
Yeah, so now let us look at his areas that he is concentrating there, because he is concentrating for the future. There are 50 projects which are going on. Argentina, Brazil, Bolivia, Chile and Peru. Peru is his main focus of interest. Overseas mining, lithium. The Lithium Triangle, which they account for about 56% of the world's lithium resources. That is now under Chinese control. Argentina, Bolivia, Chile. Peru's complete iron production he has taken on. Now you realize why he can show eyes at Australia. He now controls 100% of Peru's iron production, and the 25% of their copper is also with him. And the copper is also required for your lithium ion batteries. Now look at Ecuador. Mein, of course, there are issues wherever he goes. Environmental damage. The two of the large 5 copper mines mein se 2 of the largest copper mines are owned by PRCs. And one will run till 2038, they have reserves, and the other will run till 2056. Now look at the lithium. Chilean lithium mine, SQM mein, which is the world's leading lithium producer, he has 26.5% shares. That means, as per normal international norms, he has people on the board of directors. So he can control the board's decision. And he will slowly start investing more and more to take control. This is what in one of my talks, if you remember, I had said कि हमें अपना सोच बदलना है. हम पूरा स्ट्रेट खरीदने जाते हैं. इसने वैसा नहीं किया. धीरे धीरे इन्वेस्ट करके अपना कंट्रोल टेक ओवर किया.
He's probably rolling over money within that. Whatever money came out, he's
Yeah, yeah, he keeps increasing the share, na.
Yeah,
Look at
that's what.
35.8%, 35% shares तो उसके आ चुके हैं already.
Put the money
25%
back
plus.
into the game and keep on
And
building
then
an influence.
next थोड़ा और डाल दो, थोड़ा और डाल
जी,
दो.
जी, जी.
And ultimately he'll have more than 50% of the shares. No, the camel and the Arab in the tent. पहले नाक घुसाया धीरे धीरे, then you control it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, that has to be the strategy. Next. So now he is coming in such a big way here. Now we come to the South Pacific Islands, which are basically Micronesia, Melanesia, and Polynesia. There is a South Pacific Forum, which they call it as a Pacific Forum, but totally dominated by Australia and New Zealand.
New Zealand.
At Solomon Islands, mein to, till about 3-4 years ago, the police chief was an Australian. Yeah, and can you imagine? This total, uh, you can say, for colonization continued here. I have read reports where when they wanted, because of the weather, they wanted solar, the complete solar energy, they had to, the complete panels and everything, they had to buy from Australia, New Zealand, and these were the people who were running it. They didn't train the locals. ऑस्ट्रेलिया न्यूजीलैंड क्या बनाते हैं सोलर पैनल्स का? कख नहीं बनाते, कहीं और से लेके आए या पैसे मार के
चाइना से लाए
एक्स्ट्रा
होंगे वो भी. चाइना से लाए
जहां
होंगे.
से भी लेके आए, बट दे हैव एडेड देयर मनी. No wonder these people are slowly shifting out from them. Na? So, next, note Guam. Go back. Note where Guam is and where Hawaii is. How critical is the South Pacific island if the Chinese come here? And Solomon Islands, बीच में है वो, Oniara दिखा रखा है. That is the capital. And that's where the base is going to come. The moment the base comes there, the Guam base is outflanked. And it's a direct threat to Hawaii now. So you placed yourself between Guam and Hawaii.
Hawaii.
Okay. Next. So these they have already established to the right, which I'm showing. And other, basically they move in and use debt coercion to force island nations to follow their policy. Solomon Islands is a classic case. The previous PM was not in agreement with them, तो उसको पैसे दे के सब हरवा के he is out, and उसके साथ के supporters can't even write anything anti the government, and all the deal has been done. And they are asking all these countries to recognize only them and not Taiwan. Like in Latin America, only the Honduras is left now. अब वो भी दबाव में आके कर देगा. इन्हें he's become a major donor, and now he's beating the Australians at their own game. So suddenly now they realize कि भाई China is coming into their back door, weaning them away from their influence. What are they doing? Only shouting, threatening. What else? So let's move next. Impact of South Pacific and Latin America. US ने क्या किया है to counter this? They, apart from their Subic Bay, revival of Subic Bay in Philippines, they have gone in for a 4 additional bases, military bases in Philippines. Talks with the Japanese to increase their footprint, boots, I won't say footprint, boots in Okinawa. Now, can you counter a geo-economic challenge through military? किस किस के साथ लड़ोगे आप? Now, like I said, the South Pacific, it turns the flank of Guam.
जी.
And when you come into Latin America, it's a direct challenge to your Monroe Doctrine. What have you done till date? There has been gradual build up from the start of the 21st century and suddenly it's very stark today. आपने क्या करा दिया? What response have you given till date other than threatening Venezuela?
That is the problem. I was just about to actually budge this in. That is the problem. So you've hit the nail on the head. Threatening.
Are you coming in with geoeconomics? No. वो आर्या करके क्या एशियन रेजोल्यूट इनिशिएटिव एक्ट और समथिंग
Ah,
व्हाट हैपेंड टू दैट बिल्ड बैक बेटर वर्ल्ड अच्छा
BT
एक्रोनिम है
वो
बट अल्टीमेटली किया क्या तुमने
कुछ नहीं.
व्हाट हैव यू ब्रॉट इन हियर टू हेल्प देम टू बिल्ड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर टू हेल्प देम टू चलो कुछ भी नहीं करना है तो कोई भी एक 17 एसडीजी गोल्स दिए हुए हैं यूएन के उसमें ही किसी को मदद कर दो इट्स
वैक्सीन
नाइस
तो दी
टू
नहीं
से
सर.
आई विल पार्डन
वैक्सीन तो दी नहीं सर इन लोगों ने.
correct the other is it's nice to say alternate model damn good but what is this alternate model what I see the alternate model is building military that is not an alternate model yeah building military can be one part of it it cannot be the sole response you have to provide the necessary wherewithal for a country to be able to improve its condition and stark वो तो दिखा दिया था कोविड में they are not interested and now this is the direct challenge which he has thrown here and now comes West Asia what he is doing in West Asia which should be a cause of concern for us because it has a direct impact on our immediate regional security. Shall we look at the next one?
Yes, sir.
I'm looking beyond this Saudi-Iran agreement. We have discussed this. I've discussed this in P Gurus also. I feel it's a storm in a teacup. It is just re-establishing diplomatic relations. Diplomatic relations तो थे जब the war in Lebanon was going on where there were two different sides being supported. War in Syria had started 2011 में. War in Yemen started in 2014. It happened only in 2016. वो भी जब शेख निम्र को एग्जीक्यूट किया था द शिया क्लेरिक ऑफ सऊदी अरेबिया
And they had diplomatic relations to 2016.
हम इतना क्यों इसका हवा बना रहे हैं प्रॉक्सी वॉर चल रहा है बिटवीन रशिया एंड यूएस इन यूक्रेन दे स्टिल हैव डिप्लोमेटिक रिलेशंस यार एम्बेसी थोड़ी बंद कर दी है एम्बेसी बंद किया था बिकॉज द पीपल their hardliners made their people attack their embassy in Tehran and their consulate in Mashhad इसीलिए वो बंद हुआ था वो खुल रहा है that's it but let us see bigger causes for concern खोलो and I will show you the two Arab world and Saudi Arabia alag because
China
we
है
have yeah we have close relations with Saudi Arabia 1988 में DF-3 मिसाइल डोंगफेंग 3 अल्फा मिसाइल बेचा था उनको they claimed it is non-nuclear but I had not read of Dongfeng 3 having conventional warhead so and 88 में but shown first time by Saudi Arabia in the military parade only in 2014 2007 they were sold DF-21 US CIA claims that quietly they sanctioned the deal कि nuclear capable variants नहीं है कैसे तुम खड़े होके देखे थे आपको तो पता भी नहीं था दुनिया को क्योंकि 2014 में ही पहली बार डोंगफेंग 3 एंड DF-21 वर शोन इन देयर मिलिट्री परेड
16 साल के बाद
या बट वो तो देख लो ना 26 साल के बाद डोंगफेंग 3 and they have already sold CH-4 and Winglung 2 drones, UAVs and UCAVs, which is being used in Yemen.
Yemen.
I think one of them was shot down in Yemen, Winglun. So this is with Saudi where they are going in a big way, because the democratic government is very anti the MBS because of the Khashoggi murder case which is there. So uske piche they have not been working with them.
Yeah.
They were initially not with Mohammed bin Zayed, also with UAE, but somehow उसके against कोई murder वर्डर का charge वगैरह था नहीं, so they have mended their fences with them, and that is how it was I2U2. And UAE has been the lead. That also I2U2 इसलिए हुआ था because UAE has been the lead for the Abraham Accords. Bahrain joined in, Sudan has also come in. Sudan को तो twist किया था कि टेरर लिस्ट से निकला है तो निकलना है, उसको साइन करोगे तो ही निकलेगा, और उससे तो 300 million डॉलर्स भी ले लिया था. सो जॉर्डन के साथ भी हो गया है, बट सऊदी अरेबिया हैज रिफ्यूज्ड टू साइन the Abraham Accord. So while they may be having good relations with Israel, they don't recognize Israel. This is where it stands. Now the cause for concern is the 1+2+3 model of cooperation, the agreement of 2014, and the one which is in italics is the point of concern: nuclear energy, space and satellite, and new energy initiative. Nuclear energy, and Saudi Arabia, UAE, they're all looking to go nuclear. उनका तो nuclear plants भी बन रहा है. Now the 8 initiative agreement which has been signed with the Arab countries in December 2022. There are 30 infrastructure projects worth $719 million. The point number 2, food security parks. Experts will come from China, it will get exported to China. So it same line which they have taken in Africa, which they have squeezed out from Pakistan now in phase 2 of CPEC, where they have taken agricultural land for food parks. This is an agreement for food security for China. Because from there to get it to China becomes very easy ना, वहां से तो
Easy.
फर्दर आएगा, एंड अब ईरान में करते हैं तो वो तो लैंड से आ जाएगा. पब्लिक हेल्थ होके ग्रीन इनोवेशन. Since 2018, there has been a report by IAadi. There is a large quantity of uranium and thorium is available in Saudi Arabia. So I'm sure this is what the Chinese would be eyeing, and more likely on thorium. So they are making one thorium-based nuclear plant, which they are using salt and something, but it's still in a beginning stage. Beidou ground stations. Look at space and satellite in 1+2+3. Now you come to Beidou ground stations. Artificial intelligence, green energy, IT, communications, space. Space के लिए joint labs. What is the joint labs for space when you're already having ground stations?
Ground
There
stations.
needs to be something like those lasing and other things.
Just to clarify to the viewers, Bedu is their version of their GPS.
GPS. And they have their own version of mapping, totally different from the rest of the world, which they had brought to fore in 2002. वो बैलून इसमें मैंने समझाया है, mapping and other things. Now, inter-civilizational dialogue. But look at this subversion wala. Political parties, parliaments, media, think tanks exchange to China 1000%. Beautiful cover to subvert people.
Thousand Talents exam, not exam, Thousand Talents program.
Yeah, exchange program. Youth development. 10 plus 20 plus 10 or 10 plus 10, they will have university exchanges, 100 scientists, 3,000 teenagers, most impressionable age to take them and subvert them, 1,000 professionals, which is where they are going to indoctrinate them, the select people, into their ideology. And those think tanks and all will start getting funding. The political parties and parliamentary people will start getting funding for all their elections and other things, so that they talk China's voice. And then obviously security, stability, joint exercises, military exchange, but most concern is police training. I'm sure they will bring in their BRI ke sath the digital route also comes there, and with the digital comes the surveillance, all the surveillance cameras and surveillance methods to surveil the population, police training. So the police training comes in big way. Now these are conditions which are coming into your backyard here. So India has to be very careful कि क्या होने वाला है. I'm least interested in South Pacific at the moment, or I'm least interested in what is going on in South America. South Pacific, yes, at a later date it might come into force, but South America तो वो अमेरिका ने देखना है यार. It is across the Pacific, but this is right slap bang on the Indian Ocean. This is the concern. While people everywhere I see are talking of the Saudi Iran patch up. No, it is this you have to be worried
Yep.
about, and that is a sideline.
And it's already happening. The
Yeah,
Indian Ocean, with the exercise with South Africa, with the exercise with there's also Russia, China, and one more country doing another exercise right now. Uh, so this is already in place.
at ऊपर Arab countries, you get so much oil from there. Okay, next. Now you find a direct challenge while US is only looking at Ukraine and Taiwan. It also challenges the domination of ANZ is Australia, New Zealand on South Pacific. So, like I said, West Asia is an additional irritant for them that may or may not fructify as far as they're concerned, but it impacts our security. उसमें से 30% भी अगर लागू हो जाता है, it impacts your security.
Huge.
Yeah, especially those ones which I highlighted. So the moment nuclear and other things start coming in, imagine so many nuclear powers in your neighborhood. US that way is safe in the sense that there is no nuclear power in his neighborhood at present.
At least.
At present. हमारे तो इतने सारे हो जाएंगे यार. And all these people will lap it up. On the face of it, they will say we are wanting to balance with Israel, but then we also have to be on the lookout for it. So what can we do next? So firstly, we have to sit together and identify what is this extent of Indo-Pacific that we are talking about.
Formalize it.
What is the extent? Formalize that. Once you have formalized it, you need an architecture with a secretariat. And all the extant treaties, agreements need to be subsumed within that and lay down a charter. And all whatever individual आपने Indo Pacific, अब हर किसी को देख लो, it was the flavor of the season couple of months ago. हर कोई अपना Indo Pacific strategy निकाल रहा है. कनाडा ने निकाल रखा है, फ्रांस ने निकाल रखा है, जर्मनी ने निकाल रखा है, EU ने निकाला है, UK ने निकाला है, इंडोनेशिया ने अपना निकाला हुआ है, US का अलग है अपना, अभी जापान, साउथ कोरिया आर लुकिंग एट देयर ओन. क्या? If you're talking that you're going to be together, then there has to be something joint, na? Once you do it, only then you will be able to step in and say, okay, we provide an alternate model for development. And that has been enunciated by our Prime Minister in the Shangri-La dialogue, Sagar, security and growth for all in the region. The priority is growth. That angle is missing in all the strategies that these people have given out. And without indicating this strategy, that is the dream that China sells to these countries, that you will grow. And these countries sign on blindly without realizing that BRI is enshrined in China's constitution, that it is the engine for China's economic growth.
China's
It is not
economic
an
growth.
engine for other people's growth. So जब तक ये नहीं करोगे, it's going to be difficult. And I think the time has come that if US is not listening to this logic, we need to work with like-minded countries and create some architecture for ourselves and start working that, okay, we may not be able to match the kind of pockets that Chinese have, but there will be something available, and we'll give you a better way for development.
Self development.
Yes, that is, I'm not going to give you fish, I'll teach you how to fish.
How to fish.
So when you give me fish, the elite have dinner. When I teach you how to fish, then everybody has all the meals. Okay, and
That
that
is true.
model, India ka Asia Africa growth corridor with India and Japan, has been shown in a number of places, in Kenya, in Tanzania, in Mozambique, in Sri Lanka, where that alternate model has been shown that this is how it can be done, where we train you, your people, and they work with us. And once we feel that you're groomed well, we'll keep turning over your people and pulling out our people till you run the show. Like when we were there, we were making this Aini airfield near Dushanbe for the Tajiks. So apart from the team, the complete Adam staff were the locals. There were 6 villages around, and you found the trained people. Little bit, uh, they were taught on various things. They ran the show complete. Men, women, they were all there. Your clerks, your uh, administrative staff, your documentation के लिए, even people to look after your accounts, they were all locals there. Except for one or two who were sitting over and guiding them, rest were all locals. They were very happy. Job मिल गया ना उनको.
कुछ तो हाँ जी.
They got a job. Like we run the hospital in Kurgan Theppa. It is a multi-speciality hospital. It's a small team of doctors from the military which goes there. Rest are all locals who have been trained here. The paramedics, the nurses, the doctors, the whole lot of doctors, they're all locals who have been trained. They're so happy. And we budget it and we pay the salaries. Na?
Correct.
We pay the salaries to all those people. So the locals are very happy. Look, that is the alternate model. It's a growth for them. You're training, grooming, and then making him the specialist. Okay, you are the senior consultant, senior consultant, and I'm sure at a particular point in time you'll make him the HOD of that department. There is growth for everybody. There is growth for the people. Look at how you handle the terminal in Colombo port. Today it is run by them. Yeah.
Them.
5 साल तक चलाया हमने, उनको लोगों को सिखाया. It is run by them now. You've given a model, and they look at it directly with the locals. Look at it directly with how the Chinese are running the port. They don't let anyone come in. उनके अपने ही बंदे हैं.
वो तो घुसने नहीं देते सर.
उनके अपने ही बंदे हैं, सब कुछ उनके. वेरे यहाँ पे तो सब कुछ तुमने उनको दे रखा है. Sri-Lankans are running it. Similar model we showed in Tanzania. वो अलग बात है कि वो पॉलिटिकल पैसे दे दा के अभी उसको हटा के दूसरा प्रेसिडेंट आ गया है. So these upheavals China will do. That is part of his unrestricted warfare. That is why he's already reaching out to the political parties and think tanks and everything in West Asia. That is the point for concern. So, okay, shoot, any questions?
So, the biggest thought that comes to one's mind when one goes through um, uh, this sort of a discussion is the factor that it's about inclusivity more than anything else, right?
You
On
have to
when
include the locals.
जी, so एक तरफ आप बोल रहे हो, now let's look at both the models and USA का model and this thing. एक वो आता है USA model, oh we have long standing relations, बाहर जाएगा human rights ये वो ठीक 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 डंडा मारेगा आपको, he will embarrass you. The Chinese don't do that. They don't care if your brother-in-law gets rich.
No, but because he is squeezing out, no? That's why I always say BRI is like an octopus.
हाँ.
Octopus has sponges on all its 8 arms, and sucks the blood out and sucks the life out of his the praise, and he swallows them. Okay. BRI के भी 8 पैर है. Coincidentally, one is the maritime Silk Route, so-called maritime Silk Route, because the Silk Route was never maritime. They have named it. And there are 7 land corridors, 3 which go towards Europe, one from the north via Russia and others, one from the middle via across the Caspian Sea, and one through Iran, Turkey, and it goes there. There are 3 of them which go there. Fourth is CPEC. Fifth is what they call it is actually the China Nepal corridor. They call it the Trans Himalayan Economic Corridor. Right? The sixth is the China Myanmar Economic Corridor. It was to have included India and Bangladesh. India refused to join, so it is China Myanmar Economic Corridor. And the seventh is the Southeast Asian Corridor. So सब बंद है. There is nothing which is going on there because जितना चूसना था सब चूस लिया ना लोगों से. पैसे ही नहीं है. यूक्रेन वॉर आने के बाद तो और भी पैसे नहीं बचे किसी के पास, because the price of everything has shot up.
That's an understatement, sir. Shut up.
So
This.
so now nobody has money. He follows the American style. जितने युआन प्रिंट करने वो प्रिंट कर देगा. And now he has got that excellent opportunity with the talk going around of de-dollarization to force people to get into yuan. So then उसका वही हो जाएगा, like डॉलर करेंसी ट्रेड का था तो युआन का करेंसी का ट्रेड हो जाएगा कि मैं तो युआन प्रिंट करता रहूंगा. डेट दूसरे कंट्री का है because it is not in his currency, it is in yuan. He can't print yuan. मेरा डेट कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, कवर करने के लिए मैं युआन प्रिंट करता रहूंगा, like what is Americans are doing in dollars.
Oh. मतलब you're just pushing away the so-called imminent disasters 5 years ahead.
Yeah. So we have to be very careful in what we are looking at because it impacts India's security.
Hmm.
When these nations start having problems, it affects our security.
So it's okay. I mean, I
Southern,
somehow it
Southern
doesn't make sense
Pacific
to me.
थोड़ा दूर है, साउथ अमेरिका तो बहुत दूर है हमारे लिए. Our immediate impact is going to be felt with what happens in West Asia.
So, but South America, mein, India has quite a monopoly in terms of car sales, in terms of auto sales. When I say auto, it's not like autos; it is auto rickshaw sales.
कि वो तो
Uh,
फिर भी चलता रहेगा.
we
China
lose a
doesn't
market
make
there.
auto rickshaws. China doesn't make auto rickshaws. See, he is not interested in that. He is interested in controlling the high-tech sales. Future, lithium ion, cobalt, nickel. These are the rare earth. Already he has a sizable chunk. So these are the minerals that he is looking at, wherein the high-tech, high-end technology would require those things. That was the only reason why he's desperate for Afghanistan. Na? There's a huge copper mine, INAC copper mine out there. ये सब तो शिप से लाना पड़ता है ना, वो तो लैंड से आ
हाँ
जाएगा.
हाँ.
And they are not still not asking the Chinese to come there. The Taliban is asking India to keep going. वहाँ आओ माइन करने. They want India to, because they realize that when India comes to do the mining and comes with them, they're going to train their people and there'll be a fair share of the money. And they've seen how the Chinese have done with Hambantota and Gwadar. Na? Like Gwadar, 93% of the whatever earnings will come from Gwadar will go to China. 7% ही आपको मिलेगा. Hambantota is 95.5. I think they have shifted it to 80-20. अभी देखते हैं क्या होता है. But that's the way they're doing. India doesn't do it that way. No?
That is. But ये ना सर पंगा पता है क्या है? We I mean I'm sorry but I probably have a contradictory thought process, but we look at the grander picture and we say we will employ your people, we will do this, we will do that, but we don't look at the factor that the politician that is actually making the money is
No, यहाँ
wanting.
पे politician नहीं बनाएगा ना. It is
हाँ
they're voicing the locals. The locals are going to be paid ना. When I run that say a copper mine, I am running it.
जी.
Whichever person is running it, he pays the salary to the locals na, who are being trained there. He doesn't pay to the politician. Na. When
Especially in authoritarian
even
regimes.
now
So,
when we are running that tiny air base, their
hmm,
local staff complete who are still there. Na. No, they were worried when we inaugurated the air base just before I left from there, about 3 months, 4 months before I left from there. It was inaugurated by the president. The local staff was worried that we are going to remove them. We gave them a promise, no, yeah. Like we used to run a small hospital in Farkhor, and we used to have, when the Northern Alliance and all was there, that was their base, and all the medical aid and everything we were giving there, and we had a lot of staff out there, ambulance, ek do ambulance the and staff. The complete staff is in the Indian embassy these days, yeah. The staff was employed in the Indian embassy. Nobody was sacked. That is why the locals feel happy. Na? Nobody is getting sacked. So they're also in the INI. They were given a promise. Yeah, nobody is going to be sacked. We are going to take this, and now to run this, we may need some more. We'll give more employment. अभी तो बना रहे थे. Now comes the sustenance. We still maintain and sustain that. Na? So the locals are getting employed, and we are paying the salaries for the locals, not the Tajik Air Force. We pay. So the locals are very happy with you. So now, when somebody is going to be elected from there, if the local is very happy with you, he has to look at you. Na? पैसे चाहे कोई भी दे दे. अब वो
वो तो है.
6 गांव जो है, 6 गांव जो उसके अराउंड है, वो तो आपके कायल हो चुके हैं कि भाई आप उनके बंदों को कहीं भाग के देखने की जरूरत नहीं है. दे गेटिंग good 3 meals a day and they have a good job, and a job in which if he does well there is place to grow, कि promotion मिल सकता है. So what else is he the local want? That is the reason why Taliban is telling you to come, na? Because like I mentioned, it is down up. नीचे से ऊपर जाते हो. आपकी लोकल से पूछा है तुमको क्या चाहिए, हम बना के देंगे, हम रन करके देंगे, तुमको सिखाएंगे, तुम रन करो. बड़ा जो उनको चाहिए वो अलग बनाते हैं. Like they wanted a parliament building, they wanted a library, that is separate. डैम चाहिए था, वो डैम बना के दे दिया, that is separate. बाकी locals को क्या क्या चाहिए वो, that is separate.
जी.
That is where you will find in the longer term you will do better.
Longer term, yes. Fair.
Yes.
I mean,
I always say ना, geopolitics and international relations ऐसे overnight नहीं हो जाता. हाँ, people may collapse, something may collapse, that's a different thing. But to
नहीं
build
वो
influence and a long-term influence, this is how you will build a long-term influence.
that point taken, sir. That point absolutely taken. There is just no question about it. Long term, it is quite profitable for a slow and steady and more of a well-rounded
And
approach. There is no question.
when the people start finding they are also growing, na,
Ji, ji,
so
ji,
they
ji.
will support you.
But for us to literally even think about countering this vast escape right now, this vast landscape that the Chinese are working on is quite
Yes.
difficult.
Yes. He's a man in hurry, na.
Mm, mm.
How much he will succeed? That's why I said even 20-30% भी होगा तो भी काफी आपको दिक्कत हो सकता है. Look at the kind of problems you face in Maldives.
Yeah, yeah, that is it.
So that is the whole issue. And my concern is not South Pacific is P2 and Latin America is P3. My concern is West Asia. What happens in West Asia and Africa directly affects our security because that is slap bang on the Indian Ocean.
Indeed, sir. Let's dig into some questions, sir. Let's see what people
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
say. Fantastic. Let me just say this, guys. I mean, this kind of a detail नहीं मिलेगा साहब. पढ़ो पढ़ना पड़ता है इसके लिए. And today morning only I asked sir, how do we reach to that point? And there's this kind of understanding you need to get by studying.
Read,
The
read, read, and then again read some more.
read some more. So let me
और
read the
कोई
first
एक
question.
सोर्स मत दो, कोई एक सोर्स मत दो, मल्टीपल सोर्स के पढ़ो.
Yeah. So let me read the first question, sir. But before I do that, guys, like this video, please. All of you watching, please like this video, subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you spread the word. We should be touching about 16,000 odd subscribers by
Good.
this evening, most likely. So help me out. We are at 15,959. So let's hit 16,000 by the day end so that we can grow as fast as we can. And of course, guys, if you can, please do help out the DevTalks efforts with the QR code right there. Or you can become a member, or you can send us a super sticker or a super chat. Let's see what the people have to say, sir. First comment, Anikesh says the US doesn't pay any focus to Latin America and Pacific as it doesn't capture the imagination of their intellectual class. But good old days of the Civil War were too good to give up, hence Ukraine.
See, could be a point. It's a good point you're making, Anikesh. But then what happens to the Monroe Doctrine? It goes down the drain. They have not permitted till now any European power to come in a big way into the Pacific. Even in the Second World War, the entire Pacific was cleared by Americans by themselves. They didn't permit the Britishers to come across to the other side. ब्रिटिशर्स को बोला था आप म्यांमार मलाया वहां पे करिए आप सिंगापुर दैट इज योर बीट island hopping was completely done by the Americans.
Yeah.
Okay. And Latin America and everything, they have had control. But they don't know how to control. They have वही बोला ना दादागिरी गुंडागर्दी से अब काम नहीं चलता मिलिट्री लेके आओगे तो इट्स व्हाट का दादागिरी उसको यूज कर दोगे गुंडागर्दी those days are over.
That's a,
Those days are
that's,
over.
that's a good annotation. Sorry. मिलिट्री लेके आओगे तो दादागिरी है, अगर यूज करोगे तो गुंडागर्दी है.
गुंडागर्दी और क्या है और कुछ है नहीं ना अब दादागिरी गुंडागर्दी पहले हो सकता था क्योंकि लोगों के पास उतनी सोच नहीं थी उतने ताकतवर नहीं थे like I have told so many times on his talks only it is not that the Americans have lost power it is just that the others have also gained a lot of power
हाँ.
तो गैप कम हो गया अब आप कापोदी टूटी कापी नहीं रहे अकेले आपसे होता नहीं है यूक्रेन में ही देख लो ना क्या हो पाया बाइट द नोज टू स्पाइट द फेस
दम लगा लिया पूरा लेकिन उसने.
आपने बोला कि रशिया का फाइनेंशियल सिस्टम कोलैप्स कर देंगे इधर तो आपके एक दिन में एक बैंक डूबते जा रहा है आपके खुद के यूएस के बैंक डूब रहे हैं और स्विट्जरलैंड का क्रेडिट स्विस डूब रहा है वन ऑफ हिज बिगेस्ट बैंक्स अपार्ट फ्रॉम यूबीएस
Which is
वो डूब
supposed to
रहा
be
है
one of the great banks of the world.
वो डूब रहा है तुम्हारे टॉप 5 के बैंक डूब रहे हैं one of the banks, the Silicon Valley Bank, तो एक हफ्ते पहले Morgan Stanley, which is supposed to be the number one in the world as far as chartered accountants are concerned, had approved their complete, audited their accounts and cleared it and said it is fine. और अगले हफ्ते डूब गया.
So Fiten, one of the best banks in the world, Forbes magazine.
Yeah, the Forbes magazine had rated it. So abhi they have to learn their lesson, and they have to learn their lesson fast.
Hmm.
It doesn't pay focus into Latin America in the sense that वो तो वहां से चूस रहा था सब कुछ. Everybody knows that कोलंबिया में ड्रग कार्टेल बना रखा है उन्होंने पूरा. Colombia is surviving on drugs. Some of the drug cartels are controlled by their own people.
Salazar and all these guys had a lot of US connections.
उनका ड्रग एनफोर्समेंट अथॉरिटी CIA, उनको ब्लैक मनी चाहिए ना for
Well,
funding various.
Salazar and all these guys, they had a lot of connections
Yeah.
within the establishment.
So now if you're going to use countries for these, now the countries, chalo, people were not that educated at that time. Now people are also educated, and globalization में interconnectivity हो गया है. सब टीवी में सब कुछ देखते हैं. अब उसके पास इस तरह से है तो मेरे पास क्यों नहीं है? So everybody has that ambition to grow.
True.
And that is the dream China sells कि I will help you grow. वो बात अलग है कि वो वही चूस लेता है, बट पहले ड्रीम तो देता है. पहले ड्रीम तो देता है.
चाइना को अपने ब्रोशर के अंदर लिखना चाहिए, I will make you grow and all that. Disclaimer: if you're a बेवकूफ, you'll become like Pakistan.
That's why he claims na win-win. What he doesn't say is win in the short term for him and win in the long term also for him. तो शॉर्ट टर्म विन में इट इज फॉर द एलीट ऑफ दैट कंट्री, लॉन्ग टर्म में तो डूब गया. श्रीलंका देख लो
जी.
आई वंडर वेयर गोटाबाया राजपक्सा इज ही स्टिल इन सिंगापुर? कहाँ है वो?
No, he came back now. He came back and then he was applying for a green card.
ये पता नहीं कहाँ है वो. देयर नो न्यूज़ अबाउट.
Mark, are you online? Can you help us with this? Our friend from Sri Lanka should be able to help us with this.
yeah.
Mark, any inputs, just let me know, please.
Yeah.
On Australia and New Zealand have lost control of the South Pacific Islands. Do you think India should go into those places to challenge China economically?
जाकी पांव पसारी है जितनी लंबी रजाई. I am more interested in my immediate neighborhood and the extended neighborhood in the Indian Ocean. South Pacific से मेरे को क्या लेना देना है यार. मेरा कोई ट्रेड साउथ पैसिफिक के थ्रू नहीं जाता. मेरा जो भी ट्रेड जाता है either goes through the Suez Canal, round the Cape of Good Hope, or through the Malacca Straits and through South China Sea, or across straight through to from the along the Pacific, I would say North Pacific, and
Out
to Americas and South America. I have nothing to do with the southern islands. They are off the main shipping routes. But the Chinese interest is to outflank Guam. It's a geo-economic threat which can, in the long term, create a military imbalance for China, for US.
USA.
अभी तक वो बेस नहीं करेगा, वो उतना ताकत नहीं है उसमें हमें to place something. They have not lost control. They are losing control. आप भी गुंडागर्दी colonization कर रहे थे. It was like that only. Yeah. You were not permitting them to do anything with anybody. Now they are finding that somebody else can also come and do something. We do have, like Fiji के साथ है, and there are some islands there which we have an outreach and they have a connect with us. So उनके साथ हम कर रहे हैं, बाकी सबके साथ नहीं.
Fiji, and I think PM Modi is supposed to go to PNG also, no?
Yeah, Papua New Guinea, Fiji, and ऐसे Vanuatu. So there are some islands where we have had our connectivity. We will go to them. Not everywhere. उतना अभी है ना. It is when you reach $10 trillion that you have enough reserves available to be able to go around. $5 trillion थोड़ा बहुत होता है। अभी हम 3 ट्रिलियन प्लस हैं, उतना ज़्यादा नहीं है। So that is why we are concentrating immediately on the immediate neighborhood and also towards West Asia. That impacts us directly. And जो कुछ थोड़ा बचता है, we take it across to Mauritius, Seychelles, Madagascar, eastern coast of Africa, and थोड़ा बहुत we go to those islands with which we have had a cultural connect. You can't see, don't try to challenge China. They have very deep pockets. You try to provide what now Biden has started telling, which you have always been telling. Provide an alternate model for growth. Let the country is sovereign, let him decide. If I with his eyes wide open, will he want to go into a debt trap or will he prefer your model of growth? That's his choice.
Most important, sir. Is the world entering Cold War 2.0, or is it too early to conclude on it?
Aren't we already? China, Russia on one side.
Yep.
The only difference is in this case, where it differs from the Cold War 1.0 is China is quite deeply integrated with the West and US, and they really don't know what to do, how to break
What to
out
do
of
about it?
it, get away from it.
So, two-part question. So, just bear with me. Isn't China spreading itself too thin? Hasn't the success of the CPEC in the IOR dominance been worked out? Africa has taken all those loans but cannot pay back. Same with Pakistan, but China cannot get anything tangible against those loan defaults.
Very correctly pointed out, Arindam. But who's going to tell the megalomaniac that things, the strategy is not working? Who will tell him? They were going in a phased, adaptive manner till Hu Jintao, step by step, 2012. उनका ग्राफ ऊपर जा रहा था. Ever since this man has come into power, the economic graph has started going down. Because he became a man in a hurry and is,
Yeah.
as you rightly pointed out, he's spreading himself too thin. Now, this is a game he wants to play. How much he succeeds, I don't know. There has to be a response. My only issue is that the challenge he is giving, it is something like challenge उसने आपको लॉन्ग जंप का दिया और आप हैमर थ्रो लेके आ गए ग्राउंड में. When you're using military is like a hammer throw only ना. हैमर को फेंक के मार रहे हो आप, और वो उसने लॉन्ग जंप मांगा आपसे. उस खिलाड़ी को तो आप ला नहीं रहे हो. आप बोलते रहे हो 600 मिलियन, ये मिलियन, वो मिलियन, बिल्ड बैक अ बेटर वर्ल्ड, एशिया रेजोल्यूट इनिशिएटिव एक्ट, ये वो सारा कुछ कर दिया, बट वेयर इज द मनी? वेयर इज द मनी? देयर इज नो मनी. थोड़ा बहुत हम दे रहे हैं, थोड़ा बहुत जापान दे रहा है, थोड़ा बहुत साउथ कोरिया थोड़ा बहुत दे देता है. दैट्स अबाउट ऑल. We have joined up with Japan. Now that Japan and South Korea is having
Yeah, that
their
infrastructure
relationship is
alliance.
improving.
Hmm.
Pardon?
That infrastructure alliance that is supposed to start
Yeah, yeah, we
operating.
have that Asia Africa growth corridor
Asia, Africa, yeah.
with Japan. Now, South Korea is also reaching out to Japan. They are forgetting about the Second World War, and because the immediate challenge is with China. If they also join up with you, Vietnam wants to join up with you. So that's why I'm saying, okay, let's not keep looking कि भाई is the US going to do something. हम अपना करें ना. US still is an outlier for this region. He is not a resident power of this region. He is a resident based military power of the region. He's a he has regional, he has military bases here. He's not a resident. There is no land that he owns here. He's just leased the Chagos archipelago from the Britishers, which is illegally owned by them. Otherwise, it belongs to Mauritius. ऑफिशियली इट बिलोंग्स टू मॉरिशस. जो मॉरिशस के ऊपर आपने ब्रिटिश एम्पायर ने कब्जा किया था, उसके बाद चागोस आपने दिया ही नहीं उसको वापस. हमें अंडमान निकोबार और लक्षद्वीप दे दिया, लैकेडिव एंड मिनिकॉय. नहीं देते तो क्या करते हैं? लाइक फॉकलैंड्स नहीं दिया ना, क्या लेना देना ब्रिटिशर्स का फॉकलैंड्स के साथ यार? हाउ मेनी थाउजेंड्स ऑफ माइल्स अवे इट इज. जिब्राल्टर नहीं दे रहे हैं स्पेन को वापस. सो इट्स लाइक दैट, यूएस इज बेस्ड देयर, दैट्स इट. And they're not permitting France to come in and join, though France is a resident power of both Indian Ocean and the South Pacific. Like them, unke empire ke jaise, he has these islands in the uh, Indian Ocean, closer to the African coast, Reunion and other islands. And he has the French Papua New Guinea and others in the Southern Pacific. So he's a resident, legal or illegal, he's a resident. लीगल और इलीगल ब्रिटिश हो सकता है, बिकॉज द चागोस आर्किपेलागो इज अ ब्रिटिश आइलैंड. वो तुमने
Correct.
लीज पे लिया है फॉर अ विक्चुअलिंग बेस एट डिगो गार्शिया. Yeah, none of them can pay. Yeah, you have gone to the least developed countries or less developed countries और उनको चूस लिया. They can't pay back. Obviously, you're giving them in commercial loan at 5 to 6% interest. यार कहाँ से देगा? And you created projects which are white elephants, which is for you. Like in African coast, when you see the alignment of the railway lines and other things, एक आधा वो शॉप के लिए दे देता है. Most of roads and railway lines is connecting from the landlocked countries where the mining is taking place, like Gambia, Zambia and all. तो वहाँ से लेके आने के लिए पोर्ट पे और मैं लेके आऊँगा बाहर. Aim is to see how to get those resources from Africa out. And that is the layout of the railway lines, the ports, the roads, everything is for that. If everything is for that, how is the government going to earn anything? Because the mines are owned by you, the ports are owned by the Chinese, everything is going to be owned by the Chinese. अभी सिंपल बताता हूँ, केन्या से इनका दार एस सलाम टू नायरोबी इन्होंने रेलवे लाइन ले कर दिया, फ्रॉम द पोर्ट टू द कैपिटल सिटी. वो स्टैंडर्ड गेज का ले कर दिया. Everything is run, the engine driver, the train staff, the maintenance staff, everything is Chinese. There are no Kenyans who are there, so Kenyans are very angry. The rate is so high, no freight travels on that railway line. It is cheaper to travel by, take the freight by road. जो किसी logistics supply chain में it is not cheaper than trains, but there it is the other way around. So nobody is using it; they are taking it by port, by the road. And since you have signed an agreement with the Chinese that whether you earn money or not, you have to pay X amount of money to the Chinese, that company, the Kenyan government is having a problem. एक धेले का पैसा अर्न नहीं कर पा रहे हो वहां पे. Hardly anybody travels on that train because the tickets are so expensive. It is as expensive as the executive class of a bullet train. या क्यों कौन जाएगा वहां पे? So that is the, you're very right. People can't pay such money, and the aim was that they will suck them dry and make China better. But jaldi kar diya, so they sucked themselves also dry and sucked those countries also dry. दोनों dry हो गए. So he is facing a lot of problems.
I was actually, what you were saying something. I was just something came to my mind. The factor about BRI, one thing that people need to understand is that it was probably an extension of the Chinese industries going forward, because they had the capacity to build. If they would have stopped at that time, their entire economy wouldn't have been able to grow the way it was growing as well. Internal consumption, economic output, GDP going up and stuff like that. So it was probably one of those as well. Would you agree to that?
See, my issue has always been that just because government is spending doesn't mean, it's a very wrong way. I'm not an economist, but as a layman, I would say that just increase in government spending and purchasing a lot of things should not be an indicator for the GDP going up.
That's what the Chinese do, don't they, sir?
But this is what, this is how the economists look at the GDP. The increased spending initially started immediately after that Lehman Brothers collapse, 2008 onwards. And that's when You started getting reports in 2000, late 2009, 10, 11 of ghost cities. A whole lot of infrastructure has been built within China, leading to nowhere. You have cities where nobody stays. You have complexes where nobody stays. Now, having in and they thought that they would increase all their capacities, expecting that the people in the West and the US would buy more and more. But by then, towards the late from 2012-13, the quantum of purchase from China started reducing. Capacities बढ़ गए हैं आपके. Now what do? So while you were ओबोर तो पहले से चल रहा था वन बेल्ट वन रोड which was not clubbed together as one belt one road, which the Chinese Xi Jinping clubbed it together and said one belt one road. But bits and pieces all over सारा चल रहा था. Like if you take Gwadar was taken over by Hu Jintao. It was not taken over by Xi Jinping. So हम्बन टोटा बन रहा था 2009-10 से बन रहा था हु जिनटाओ के टाइम में, नॉट शी जिनपिंग के टाइम. Now he started increasing the footprint so that more and more of his people, he thought, I will take money from them and pay off our people the excess capacity, like you had mentioned, Adi. That was what he deployed outside, little realizing that by deploying so much so fast outside, you won't get the money. You, which are the countries who are deploying to? You're trying to deploy in Central Asia, किसके पास पैसा? You're trying to deploy in Africa, किसके पास पैसा? Pakistan. You people don't have that kind of money, and you dumped in so much of money, and now you're running short of money. Your own banks, I don't know when the Chinese will have a run on their banks.
Somehow it's been quiet
It was
because
Henan province में हुआ था when they brought in their APCs outside to guard the bank, but
no, with the current crisis, it's been quite
you never
really
know.
quiet from China.
No, now that's why he's made all those commissions. Even banks come under him now directly.
Yeah, yeah.
Fiscal, monetary, all policies he'll do. Everything is centrally controlled under him.
So thank you, sir, for your generous contribution. We have a deterrent against China. Do we have a deterrent against the USA? 20,000 kilometers ICBM needed for Vishwaguru, sadly.
Immediately क्यों चाहिए? Are you immediately looking at a threat to hit him there? I have adequate missiles to hit him in Guam, hit him in Bahrain where he's based there, or hit him in Hawaii.
Qatar.
I have range. Why should I go to mainland? The days of using nuclear as a deterrent and all to an outlying island means nothing. He is not yet a threat to you. We do have the capacity, we have shown. If I can place successfully a geostationary satellite at 36,000 kilometers up in the space,
We can
20,000
send a lot
kilometers,
many more things.
20,000 kilometers क्या है? I
Yes.
can make it. When the need comes, I can make it. And it's a very successful thing. Huh? A lot of countries depend on you for launching their satellites, whether it is
Geosynchronous.
at all levels, whether it's be LEO, MEO, or GEO. We have the capacity. So the moment you have a capacity for MEO or GEO, you can make it. It's just a question of adjusting the flight path.
Absolutely. Why is USA tolerating all this? During the Cold War, they crushed further Soviet involvement in the continent after the revolution in Cuba.
They forgot to look after the politicians. They went after dictators. That's all I would say, Kalpavriksha ji. And Chinese went after the politicians. So you have a lot of left-leaning and socialist presidents who are winning elections in South America. So when you have these people coming in, it's very difficult for you to uh, push your agenda. बोल्सोनारो था, बट वो तो टुवर्ड्स द लेटर पार्ट तो वो तो ट्रम्प से भी बड़ा नटकेस निकल के आ रहा था.
Oh,
Okay, so he's gone. Lula is back again.
yep.
He is leftist, and Democrats like leftists. So unless a Republican government comes, कैसे करेंगे वो?
Indeed, sir. Why should we take US-China rivalry seriously? In fact, they are and have been structurally complementary, supplier-consumer, over 3 decades now. Could present
Well,
phase of rivalry be transitory, continuous, sir, or worse, a head fake eventually settling at G2? Is the US asleep or pretending to be? What are we assured of as drivers of a sustained US-China rivalry?
G2 तो होगा भी नहीं. China as it is, number of economists have also said a number of talks have come in. Their economy is down in the dumps now. And because it is down in the dumps, you find uh, Xi Jinping becoming more and more like a dictator. I'm not interested in the US China rivalry. That's why I said I made a point that I'm least interested at the moment on what is happening in Latin America. P2 is South Pacific. My immediate concern is my immediate neighborhood and West Asia. And thereafter is the east coast of Africa. How am I interested? That's why I say, how am I interested in what is going on in Ukraine? What is the impact in my immediate neighborhood? That impacts my security immediately. As far as the rivalry is concerned, it's going to get even more stark, even more stark. And the only way, like why all their generals, retired generals, are all predicting between 2025 and 2030 that China may attack Taiwan. Why? Because they know at by then, to a large extent, the Ukraine war would have petered out. Now the military industrial complex needs another war. They know they won't make any headway with India. So why not create situations in and around Taiwan and make China react and start a war there and fight China to the last Taiwanese and South Korean and Japanese.
You mean to say doorstep war policy, sir?
Yeah, bilkul, 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 bilkul. That's how they're going to sustain themselves. And how much is the how much are will they be able to squeeze the MNCs to be in line with State Department,
Yeah, that's the main
DOD?
thing. When profits dry
Quite
up, how
hard.
will you do that?
Yeah. But remember, they can squeeze them only that much because after all, these are the people who fund their elections.
Yeah, that's what the profits dry up. What is
पैसा
for?
वहां से अर्न करके ला रहे हैं, profits वहां से learn करके ला रहे हैं. So it's a catch 22 sort of a thing. Let's see how it moves, how much they can push. See, only Apple has started shifting towards us. Baki, unless they come to us that kind of depth and width in trade, they will not be able to match. And they will not get the same amount of profits as they get from China. So, which is going to be the tipping point when the politicians decide that India se kam paise profit milenge, that is more than adequate than getting more from China. When they reach that tipping point, that is when you will find the push and the exodus coming out, and maybe the push for pushing China out of WTO.
Hmm,
But the tipping point is not yet reached.
not yet reached. And I'll take the last question, sir. This is a interesting one. Why should we partner with the USA when they can't support our strategy? India should go alone with our strategy, and USA is becoming a liability to India. Your view?
Raghunandan, you will deal with each country where it suits your national interest. So at the moment, if you feel that it is felt that the USA is able to give you some benefits, those benefits you will use. See, if you look at a Venn diagram, there's a circle which is your national interest. There's a circle which is your regional interest, and there is a circle which is the global interest. When you combine these two, the overlap which is there, you work with each of these big parts in that overlap. कि ग्लोबल एंड रीजनल को पास पास ले आओ, नीचे से अपना नेशनल एम्बिशंस को लेके आओ, जो जितना एरिया ओवरलैप होता है उस वेन डायग्राम में, वो छोटे एरिया के अंदर ही आप उससे कोऑपरेट
Hmm.
करोगे, सब जगह नहीं करोगे आप. That's why you find you are taking an independent stand as against the US in the war in Ukraine. And since you have the power and the heft, and he needs you today, you are able to take that stand. They need the oil.
Yeah,
We sanctioned them. So now we get the crude, we refine the crude, and we are selling the crude back to the US and the EU to meet their requirements.
the hypocrisy of that statement cannot be
Yeah.
unwritten by any numbers because that's,
But then the rate is quite high. They are not able to meet that rate.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, this is just, I think it's so weird that this actually happens in today's world.
No, you look at all of them now. Like you look at the Germans, you look at the French. The common man is not having the heating. He not can't afford it. He has
Yeah,
to take a choice between whether he needs to buy food or he meets the heating needs. So he's cutting down his heating bill. He's ready to sit with all the woolens inside the house so that at least he can put food on the table.
food
But
on
the
the table.
elite have all the perks. So cost ज़्यादा है, फिर भी use कर रहा है. So you look at the way they are structured and you compare it to, of course, Pakistan is a still worse case today, but compare it to Pakistan. The poor has no food. There's nothing कि भाई इसके बदले वो, he doesn't have.
Yeah, Europe will
But
have
the
cleaner
elite is not
streets and
bothered. The
yeah,
elite is not bothered. They have everything. $260 for a liter of petrol, he doesn't mind. 280 for a diesel, he doesn't mind. $700 for that latest Canadian coffee wala, he doesn't mind. वो तो पे कर रहा, लाइन लगती है वहां पे यार.
I know.
So you see the difference. It is something like the Russian Revolution. They don't have bread, let them eat cake. मेरी एंटोनियट, वही हो रहा है अभी वेस्ट में भी वही हो रहा है. They're not looking at how it is affecting the common man.
Yeah, we need to support Ukraine.
But
We
we
need to
are
support.
looking at that. We are looking at that. So that is why there are certain areas where US is of help with us. We'll be with them. जहाँ यूएस
That's
का हमारे साथ नहीं मीट होता, हम नहीं करेंगे.
this predominance with Ukraine as well. I think has lost them another year. There is just no question about it.
And now
And
they are shifting towards Taiwan. Yeah, you're not even looking at geoeconomics now. That's my whole concern.
so, where would they? I mean, okay, the US, fair enough. You got the European Union, which I thought had half a brain. But when you hear leaders like Ursula talking, you wonder. This woman gets up in the morning, puts three Ukraine tablets in a this thing, puts a key around, and she starts burning Ukraine, 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 all through the day.
पैसा बोलता है. I'm sure they must be linked to the
Paying her,
military
yeah,
industrial
yeah,
complex.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm sure her husband has got some big contract somewhere and something like that. Her husband is, as it is, under investigation, by the way. So you can imagine.
Nothing surprising when the POTUS and his son can be under investigation for all
And
these
then the
fraud
vice
deals.
president of the European Union had taken kickbacks from the Qataris to vote for them during the
या
football.
फुटबॉल के, वो तो चल रहा है काफी. वो तो चल रहा है काफी.
बड़ा बड़ा अमेजिंग है यार ये. That's the
उनको
whole
क्या
thing.
फर्क पड़ता है यार, फुटबॉल हो रहा है कतार में, मेरे को $1 million बिलियंस ऑफ डॉलर्स मेरे को मिल रहे हैं, ठीक है खेलो यार कतार में.
But one thing is there, sir. If I may, just to conclude this beautiful talk, sir, the Africans are not taking any nonsense from anyone. They're pushing back on the Chinese. They're also pushing back against the West.
Of course.
That has started up.
You know what the West did to them, and now they've seen. That's why I said, no, Africa is has stalled as far as the Chinese are concerned. They
Yeah.
have to think this strategy, and they've seen what the Chinese are doing, and they felt that they're as bad as what the colonialists were.
Sir, this was fantastic. Honestly, I mean, maza aa gaya because the factor about the whole narrative about the West is that oh yeah, China this that ye wo Taiwan 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 Taiwan. Look beyond it. The Solomons was a big wake up call. People didn't see it.
But
Micronesia,
have
the
they
president later.
wake up hai? But have they woken up? What have
No,
they done?
no.
Have they pushed back against the laws that he has passed against the previous PM and the manner in which they are curbing speech and everything against the existing thing? Are they doing that? No. The only pushback कि भाई base बन रहा है and both Oniara and China said that it's not a base, it's just a logistic thing and they accepted it, swallowed it. Oh यार सोलोमन के पास क्या है वॉरशिप को लॉजिस्टिक्स सप्लाई देने के लिए?
सब कुछ चाइना बनाएगा, अपने बंदे डालेगा, पुलिस स्टेशन बनाएगा और शुरू हो जाएगा.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल.
That is my problem. And when we are sleeping, that's why I asked you the first question. Are these guys sleeping at the switch? It's hard to say, but
Attention is to make money. So at
that,
some point in time, there will be some action in Southern Pacific Islands.
and then they wake up, and then the
No, no,
whole
no,
thing.
no. These people will go in. ना पहले भी गए हुए हैं.
हाँ.
So, जाएंगे, फ्रांस को साथ ले लेंगे. फ्रेंच पापुआ न्यू गिनी आइलैंड वगैरह वहाँ पे हैं, तो उनको भी साथ ले लेंगे. इन तीनों कंट्रीज बूट्स ऑन ग्राउंड.
चलो शुरू हो जाओ धीरे धीरे.
None of these countries have any defense forces. ना सोलोमन
Yeah.
has got कितना 500 पुलिसमैन है उनके पास है. They've just got some police force, boots on ground. That was also controlled. Most of them are controlled by Australians and New Zealanders.
Mm.
So they'll land on ground and overthrow and sort of a coup. That is their answer. No? There is no geo-economic answer. Dadagiri and Gundagardi.
But the quote from this particular talk is, फौज लेके आओगे तो दादागिरी है, यूज करोगे तो गुंडागर्दी है. It's an amazing talk, I must say. This has been crazy. Omkar, I know you've been wanting to know about the JF-17. I have put up some videos on, on my channel. You can actually search it on my website, or you can just type on my channel and search it. You will find details about JF-17. He's quite interested because I guess there's latest news about the Myanmar is grounding their JF-17s once again.
Oh,
This
most
news
of
has
the
been doing
countries
the
have
rounds.
grounded. Yeah.
Yeah, they've been doing the rounds.
Chinese engines don't work, and Chinese are known to give faulty equipment. They don't do
सर
any.
इतना अच्छा होता तो चाइनीज अपने पास 2 स्क्वाड्रन तो रख लेते.
एक भी नहीं है.
खुद ही नहीं उड़ाते, वो बोलते तुम उड़ाओ, मैं नहीं उड़ाऊंगा इसको.
उनके तो अभी सारे they are shifting to J10, J11, J16.
Yeah.
That is what the new variants, J10, J11, J16. There's no JF-17.
So I must say this was fantastic, and the perspective on Indo-Pacific, and more than that, the correct perspective on West Asia, which has been literally messed up by the media. Some people say there's a pipeline getting made. Some people say there is this. Some people say China jeet gaya. Some people say USA हार गया.
Do they realize the length of the pipeline? क्या बात कर रहे हो यार?
वो है ना सर, क्या
Do
है
you
सब
have a pipeline in USA which goes from East Coast to the West Coast? This will be bigger than that.
Yeah. And in
To
worse
take it
terrain,
to the east, to take it to the east coast of China, where the actual requirement of fuel is. You realize how many pumping stations you have to make en route?
अच्छा जी, हार्दिक साहब क्या क्वेश्चन है आपका यार? कह रहा है सर एक क्वेश्चन तो ले लो मेरा.
ले लो.
Chalo, I'll take this as a last question and we're done because we've gone through a lot. We're at about 1 hour 39 minutes. So, China has done some excessive sea topography research in the last 2 decades in South China Sea and Indian Ocean. Is it high time that we should do that in our strategic backyard and in the SCS? Your thought?
See, South. Let me be a devil's advocate, Hardik. It's an interesting question. Of course, Indian Ocean we have a complete. Let me give you this much: that marine topography we have, Indian Ocean. South China Sea. Why do I need to go there? For what?
It's not my backyard.
It's not my backyard. Number two, if you look at the areas, North Sea is China Sea. It is the South China Sea which gives it the depth and the space to operate his fleets. East China Sea chota hai, North Sea भी, which is the Yellow Sea, is also chota, not very big. Unless he gets out of the island chain and into the Pacific, North Pacific, उसको जगह नहीं मिलता. South China Sea today is the only place where he can do it. We always talk about uh, his artificial islands. Yes, he's done artificial islands and placed runways and everything and placed them. But without creating artificial islands, a whole lot of countries of ASEAN have also placed their people on these islands. A number of other atolls and islands and have claims, which is way beyond the EEZ of any of these countries. Like you take Spratly Islands, it is outside the EEZ, and you look at the UN map UNCLOS EEZ of these countries, approved EEZ, this is outside the EEZ of all countries. So why are the Vietnamese, Philippines, Malaysians, and all Vietnamese and Tumare, Brunei, and all these people sitting on those atolls? They may not have made any artificial island, but why are they sitting on? तो चाइनीज ने भी आके बैठ के अब हुई है ना, गुंडागर्दी है, मैं ताकतवर हूँ और मैंने बना लिया, फिर से रोक सकता है तो रोक ले. तो वही कर दिया उसने, आर्टिफिशियल आइलैंड बना दिए और उसको मिलिटराइज कर दिया. रोकना था तो ओनली अदर कापोटी टूटी कापी कुड हैव डन इट वाज यूएस. उसने तो आंख मार के दूसरी तरफ देख लिया.
So allowed it to happen.
He allowed it to happen. Now it's too late. He dominates it. If you look at the maps that are existing, which also the Americans have also laid out, that if he places various missiles on these islands, he covers everything. Yeah, वो तो कर दिया. मैं वहां जाके करना क्या है? और when our ships go, when our subs go, they do the mapping. But why do I need to physically do all the mapping? He needs to do it in the Indian Ocean because he has no data. That's why he sends his subs, he sends his surveillance ships and sends survey ships and other things to get the data. करने दो. US के पास भी है, Brits के पास भी है. Brits had operated here for so many years. They also have the data. The Americans have been doing the victualling in the Indian Ocean. They have all the data. We have all the data. तो एक Chinese के पास और data आ गया तो.
I'm making that only. So right now, as a note, research on exactly what I've written. Research on data collection within the Indian Ocean. Who all has
The
the kind of
Britishers have been operating here. Second World War पूरा यहाँ पे लड़ा है यार. American ships have all been passing here. You don't pass here without your marine topology. Here. Submarines have been moving here.
that's what came to my
You have to
mind.
know where the warm water is, salty content कितना है, कहाँ है, to be able to hide, कहाँ पे सिग्नल तेज चलेगा, कहाँ सिग्नल नहीं गूंजेगा, किधर छुप सकते हो, किधर नहीं छुप सकते हो सोनोग्राफी के साथ. All these data you have to pick it up. So they have it here. अगर चीनियों ने अगर रन करके नहीं भी लिया होगा तो उनके तो कंप्यूटर से हैक करके ले लिया होगा.
They would have stolen it. Correct, sir.
Yeah, so ठीक है, it doesn't make a difference. Yes, they have the details. So what? It is, he still doesn't have a blue sea.
Sorry.
A blue
My
navy
apologies.
he still doesn't have.
Yeah. So I think can we put this in the White House somewhere?
And I'll just add, by creating the big hub at Great Nicobar, which dominates the ship lanes to the Malacca Straits. Your government has just cleared that. That's going to be one of the biggest ports and base out there.
44,000 crores.
How will these ships come out? कहाँ से आएगा? He can't come from Sunda Straits. Submarine नहीं आ सकता. Either has to come through Malacca or Lombok Strait.
Correct.
Lombok is right next to Australia.
Thank you, sir, for a great learning session. I couldn't have said it better.
So,
Guys, it is, sir, this has been amazing as always. I mean, it's a great learning experience when we go into this kind of detail. Uh, क्या बोले, sir? I mean, the kind of detail that is coming out today in this thing, and I'm grateful that you're associated with Dev Talk so that we as a community can learn these kind of details rather than just reading one odd article here and there, which could give you a very tertiary sort of a understanding of the situation. But it's a lot more than anything else, and I think the bottom line that you brought out, it's the money which is driving a whole lot of geopolitics today, which is actually away from national interests from of a lot of people. So I guess that's one of the things. A lot of
no,
countries, not people.
how does it impact the US as long as he has a market somewhere
Yeah,
or
that's what
something?
I'm saying. Money.
Because he's an outlying island. He's not the main. He's not the main world island. But he doesn't realize that he's slowly his markets will get eaten away.
So I sorry, I'm going to put this. हमारे यहाँ तो बारिश हो रही है, ऐसा लग रहा है कि आज जैसे चार दोस्त मिलके कुछ डिस्कस कर रहे हैं. मजा आ गया. थैंक यू फॉर डिस्क्राइबिंग सच सिंपल वर्ड्स सो वी अंडरस्टैंड.
थैंक यू.
सर, थैंक यू सो
चाय और
मच.
पकौड़े भी हो जाते तो मजा आ जाता.
आई नो.
बारिश के
एब्सोल्युटली.
मौसम में चाय और पकौड़े खाने का मजा ही कुछ और है.
एब्सोल्युटली, एब्सोल्युटली. यहाँ पे भी आई थिंक बारिश हो रही है जहाँ मैं बैठा हूँ, सो आई गेस
You
इट्स
know,
गोना
it
बी
rained here yesterday night. Evening
चलो
it
सर, लेट्स
became
होप फॉर अ
cloudy
लाइट
and
समर
रात.
एंड ब्यूटीफुल रेन्स.
Of course, Bangalore, Mysore, once it rains, it becomes quite cool.
Yeah, absolutely. It's beautiful. Right, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank
And
you.
as always, thank you
Thank
and
you,
Jai
Adi.
Hind.
Jai.